What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line, and hope everybody's having a great weekend. And of course, we do this once a week, and here we are back to dissect what happened last week and to look forward to next week. And of course, last week was another week of nothing, right? And the trouble with markets like they are now is that nothing happens, and of course, it takes traders and investors out of their game plan, because we all have that desire to want to make something happen. And of course, we were waiting on numbers, we were waiting on economic data, we were waiting on earnings. And of course, the earnings are still considered to be fantastic. And of course, when I go fantastic, I look, okay, what is so fantastic? And of course, certainly from the company standpoint and the CEO standpoint, the earnings are phenomenal. They're making big money. The problem is that they're not making the money through growth. They're not making the money through hiring people and getting a bigger company. They're making their money by contracting, which is a problem. All right. Now, again, we don't look at it as a problem, but I look at it as a problem, because if we go back and look at the jobs number from Friday, yeah, we had a big number. And of course, you know, hey, you can't lie about the numbers, but of course, you know, a 200,000 print is just that, it's not that big of a deal. But when you look at the makeup of the jobs that we're getting, when you look at the type of jobs we're seeing, we're not seeing great jobs, okay? We're seeing a lot more part-time. In fact, I believe we lost 54,000 full-time jobs. Now, we have a major problem in this country because we don't have a good health care plan, because of the rules and regulations of the Obamacare program and the responsibility of employers. They get to certain numbers, they're not going to hire more people. They're not going to want to grow their companies, because of course, the minute you get to, I think it's 50 employees, you now have to cover the health care. And of course, once you get there, what happens is it's like you're taking a pay cut, because you have to absorb all that cost. So why get to that size when you don't have to? And therein lies the bigger problem. Therein lies the idiocy of the single payer system that the Democrats want. Okay. And again, I don't care what side you're on, but this is just, single payer systems are not the way to go. All right. We need to have the free markets. And if you think that the single payer system that the left wants right now, okay, is the end of it, then you're making a big mistake, because this is just the start of it. When you start to give in to these things that take away free markets, when you get to take away the ability to be capitalists, if you choose to be so, and if you don't want to be, you don't have to be that. That's the beauty of America. If you want to be a capitalist, you can go for it. If you don't have to. But they're destroying the system that we built this very country on, was not being forced to pay ridiculous fees for things that have no value, and to continue to build. And if you have the knowledge and the brain power and something that you can develop and build, then you can make yourself into a billionaire. There's nothing wrong with that. I see no problem with the Steve Jobs of the world. Nobody ever talks about Dell anymore, but you know, the Dells of the world and all those guys who built these companies, who can blame them? Can I be mad? No. But you now have the government stepping in and wanting to take all that away from them. Now, I don't understand what's so hard to see that if you go back to actually the creation of the Federal Reserve, and you go back to what some of the stories, again, you have to be a little more on the conspiracy side to follow this whole thing. But the supposed intention was to grab all the wealth out of the system. And of course, that's what we're seeing happen here, is because we're not seeing the trickle-down theory, we're seeing the people falling down and the money trickling up. And I think the taking away of all of the opportunities out there are really having a much bigger effect on this country. And we'll talk more about this in the commentary piece, but you know, we have a mess here, okay? We have a market that is well overvalued at this particular time. But of course, you have the TV news pundits out there saying, well, this time is different. Okay, this time is different. We've got a new market. This is a brand new market. We've never had a market like this before. Okay, it's a new market. Now, I mean, that's the biggest crock ever, all right, that it's a new market. Now, I'm not saying the markets won't go higher from here. I'm not saying that they're going to collapse. What I'm saying is that you get to a certain point that who's going to support these markets? Where's the money going to come from? And where's the growth going to come to? All right, at some point, you have to realize that the average American is making less money than they made before. Our expenses are higher than they were before, with the exception of long-term purchase products, or, for example, cell phone service. But everything else costs you more money. So we're making less, paying more. It's not a good marriage, and yet we want to create more of a create more inflation. Okay, there's nothing wrong with natural inflation that is built and brought to us by a price discovery model that brings in supply and demand. But artificial is ridiculous. Of course, our entire system in that instance is ridiculous to begin with. This is where we have lost the true free market system. That's why, you know, what is going to bring upon the next crisis, and it will be something out of left field. Okay, I mean, but I can tell you this: banks are now once again, not necessarily with everybody, they're not giving out a lot of the no-doc loans and all this other stuff, but they're lending now. They're lending, and they're aggressively lending. And as I mentioned maybe before here, is I know a couple of not subprime lenders, but a couple of, you know, higher interest rate lenders. Okay, not, you know, again, they lend to people that can't get money from the banks, but in the meantime, their business is up 200% already for 2017 over 2016. 200%. It's only August. Okay, now I'm getting calls every day for, you know, you want to borrow money, we want you to borrow money, and, you know, you want to increase your line, you want to do this. And I mean, my newly graduated son, who took a job and is now working for Edward Jones, I'm seeing mail come for him. Okay, you want to borrow money? Now, you don't have he just got a job. He just finished. Now, fortunately, he has no debt. But that's the problem here. So you look at what's going on here, and they're now trying to push out. So 10 years later, we're seeing a repeat of what they did before. So if that doesn't concern you, that banks are now willing to buy loans, okay, if it doesn't concern you that they're willing to probably package these loans again and make, you know, remember, those who don't understand history or those who don't look at history are doomed to repeat it. Well, you don't think we're not going to have a repeat of the same thing again? And that, I think, is where you have to understand what the hell's going on here with this entire economy. All right? I mean, this whole Keynesian theory. Now, again, I'm not saying that Hayek or Austrian or anything is the best or the panacea. There's probably a middle-of-the-road setup that is better, okay, that can create something better for everybody. However, all right, what I do know is that you cannot continue to kick the can down the road, okay? You cannot continue to have Social Security at 65. You cannot continue to have all of this entitlement programs. And for some reason, we call Social Security an entitlement program, which indeed it is not, all right? That's the ignorance of our government, because for Social Security, you pay for that each and every year, okay? That comes out of your paycheck if you work for a company, and you pay that money every year, and there's a max you pay, okay? So that is not an entitlement program. That is actually would be almost funding your own IRA, all right? And you certainly pay enough a year to fund your own IRA. And it probably would have been better if we could have handled it to have people fund their own. Of course, that's another issue, but that's another story for another show. But at the end of the day, so Social Security is not a true entitlement program. You are getting back monies that you have paid. For example, I've paid for 47 years Social Security. And for 40 of those years or whatever, I've paid the maximum each and every year. So that becomes the problem. I'm entitled to that money that I earned because I paid into the system to help it. I can't help it that they mismanage it. I can't help it that they promise things that they can't deliver. But I did pay that money in, and they did use that money. Now they use it to pay other people. So they ran what we always talk about here is the gigantic Ponzi scheme. It's legal because they can do it, but that's what they're running. But if you look at the model, okay, why didn't they raise the working age higher? Retirement. First of all, people want to work anyways. 65 is no longer 65 what it was. When Social Security was put in, 62 was the average living age. They gave you Social Security at 65 so that you could retire and live a life. And they weren't going to run out of money. But they decided to never adjust that scale. And every politician since has decided to create more debt, push it down to the next, and hope it goes away. And let somebody else deal with it. Because we have this ridiculous notion that imbeciles can be career politicians. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know too many politicians in there that are worth anything and that don't have their own agendas that they're playing for. All right, that's a very powerful spot. You get the benefit of the lobbyists, you get the benefits of some of the money that you raise and some of the other things that you get to kind of spend in a special way. In the meantime, you've got this issue that they won't take care of business the way it's supposed to, which is why many of these problems today exist, is simply that reason. Because we can't get the politicians to vote things correctly because they're worried, because everybody who's close to retirement doesn't want to give it up. Well, somewhere you got to make the hard decision, okay? Somewhere you got to make the tough decision and say, hey, I'm not worried about getting reelected. I'm not worried about the vote. Where in the Constitution does it say that a senator is a career? Okay? I mean, Bernie Sanders never had a job in his life. He's been a career politician, scamming and stealing forever, but yet preaching the socialistic views. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for a break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz. Make sure you get the Bubba Show every single day at LibertyTalk.fm, every day 2 to 3 Eastern Time, and check it out. We have a lot of fun, and of course, we'll be back right after the break with more of Bubba's Bottom Line. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz with you, and of course, I don't know if you watched, you saw Alan Greenspan last week talk about the bond bubble. There's a guy, there is the original bubble creator. Once again, talking about once it was irrational exuberance, once the original builder, the architect of bubble building, who laid out the platform for the clueless to follow in Ben Bernanke and Janet Yellen, is calling now a bond bubble. Well, you would think you might be in a bond bubble when you're at 0% rates. Again, you can't continue to function like this. But again, bubbles, which the Fed will never acknowledge, exist, and then they pop. But they don't acknowledge them until after they pop. But you would say that the bonds are probably in a bubble. You would say that the stock market is in a bubble. You would say that the entire economy is in some sort of a bubble. Because if you look around, we're not seeing what we would say is this great of a market. This is not that great of an economy. There's a few states that are obviously doing extremely well. But the majority, the masses are not. The masses are continuing to have to cut back. The masses are continuing to have major problems, yet we don't care. And that, again, becomes a much bigger deal when you want to look at it, because you go out and look, for example, you go out to farm country, all right? Grain prices are ridiculously low again, okay? Because we destructed the true supply-demand model. We've destructed an entire economy over ridiculous, stupid regulations. Now, we do have, of course, Donald Trump, who is trying to do some things to make it work. But of course, right now, what do we have? We have the people that do not want him to succeed. You have to wonder about a party and people that want the president to fail. That's pretty illogical and pretty stupid, in my opinion. Again, you don't have to like the guy, okay? He's got 4 or 8 years in office. You should want whoever your president is to succeed because they're going to make the country better. But yet we have a number of Republicans too, so don't, not leaving them out, right? Take a look below. There's some sneaky little snarks down there that are backstabbing on the way up. But obviously, those on the left are much more boisterous and stupid and racist and ridiculous. All the things they accuse Donald Trump on, they should look in the mirror. Okay, now, I think he's doing a relatively good job. Listen, I voted for him. I predicted he was going to win. So, again, shoot me, okay? But in the meantime, here's the problem, okay? The problem is that we have too much divisiveness. We have too many people trying to bring down the president rather than to lift up the country. That should be your first clue that those jackasses do not have your best interest at heart, okay? Because they're trying to take down the country by taking down the president. Now, again, you don't have to like the president. You don't have to deal with the president. But at the end of the day, he is the president. And until he is not the president, and until there's a real, true reason why he shouldn't be, then we should be trying to support him, trying to bring back the things that we need: jobs, money, business, banking, everything we've lost over the years of the socialistic works of the left. Now, at the end of the day, all right, I like Donald Trump. I think he's doing a good job. However, I do not like his continued comparison to how the stock market is doing since he's been in office, okay? Because, again, he didn't make some of this happen. Some of this was going on before him, okay? Now, it may be consumer confidence. That I can certainly give him the benefit of the doubt on. I do not like the comparison to the stock market. I do not like the comparison of jobs, because when you look at the jobs, they're not that good. So Mr. Trump, Mr. President Trump, I hope that you look at some of these things and understand that, look, I think you're doing great, and I think you have things going for us. But at the end of the day, the stock market's going to go up or down depending on what's going to happen. And unfortunately, I think you'll be the president when the stock market has another meltdown. But yes, right now it's higher, and it has improved since you've been in office. But I don't think that should be what you're comparing your things to. I think that your programs are great. I think that you're trying to do is good, and I think you're working in the right direction. Of course, you're not going to get help from the others, but I think that those are the things that should be more focused on, not what the stock market is doing or the jobs market. And I think that that's a bad way to do it, because the very stock market was doing very well under Barack Obama, who I don't think it did a good job, but the stock market was higher. So again, I don't think that really has the overall need. I think you talk about consumer confidence. I think those things are great. And I think that, again, I think that you are the right man for the job, I believe, at this time. But this is where it's going to take forever to weed out the people that really don't care about America, the people that actually hate America, that just want to figure out the way to scam America. That's what I think that we have to figure out, how to weed them out. But in the meantime, we see, why do we see bubbles here? Well, look at a stock like Tesla, okay? Once again, up near all-time highs. Well, they had a good quarter. They only lost $2. And again, they had no money, okay? The only money they've ever made is based on their government grants and tax credits. And again, Elon Musk is a great guy, smart, understands it. Car is phenomenal. But at the end of the day, you still got to make money. But yet here's this stock being defended for not making money. Now, again, I'm not telling anybody that it's going down tomorrow. What I'm saying is that it doesn't make a lot of sense. There's no real logic in here right now that we see certain stocks flying. at least if you had some fundamental reason. I'm a technical guy, technical trader, but if I had some fundamentals behind it, because what's going to happen is when they put the pin in the bubble, it's going to just pop. And we're going to be wondering once again, what happened to our dough? And that's where I think there's a much bigger problem that we're missing the boat on. That's where I think that you have to understand how this whole thing, how the whole model works, or the price discovery and the business model works. Because again, to continue to push these things up, and again, Apple, great company. Does it deserve to be here? Probably at some point, but I think we're a little bit too far too fast. That's all. Again, it's not, and I'm not looking for a major crisis collapse, okay? But when you look back in the markets and you see what's gone on over the last 10 years, and you look at the manipulation, okay, that we've seen, you've got prices that are artificially manipulated to create a sense of wealth that aren't really there. And it's going to pull the rug from underneath you. Now, we've just seen this for the last almost 10 months now with OPEC and their willingness to want to try to manipulate the price of oil. Now, here we are with oil trying once again to make a rally, but in the meantime, it's down, right today, it's down 15% from when OPEC first got involved. It was down as much as 23%. All right. But the only reason I think we're trying to rally here a little bit is because there are some true crises that actually affect American oil, which is what's going on in Venezuela. Citgo is a Venezuelan oil company. There's many that, and we do sell oil to Venezuela. We don't need the oil we give them. We need to sell them what we do. The oil is different. The way they're making, the makeups are different. But in the meantime, they're creating a disruption. But as far as a supply-demand model, we can produce as much oil, and if oil goes a little bit higher again, you will see the frackers coming in selling futures and again starting to crack the price of oil. So again, I don't see that they're going to be able to manipulate, but that's really what the whole economy has been a manipulation of money and currency. And that's, I think, where the real problem comes in, is the whole manipulation scheme that we're having. And I will talk about this more when we come back from the break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz. We'll talk about, and have my opinion piece coming back right after the break. Todd Bubba Horwitz, Bubba's Bottom Line. Get the Bubba Show every single day at LibertyTalk.fm, 2 to 3 Eastern Time. Real markets, real people. Bubba's Bottom Line. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz here. And of course, what would a show be without me doing a little bitching or my opinion? And of course, not that I haven't given it for the last 30 minutes, but here it is now. And we talked about this earlier. The single-payer healthcare system, we've mixed in the Fed, and we've mixed in a couple of things. So let's put it all together as Bubba sees it. In the world according to Bubba, let's see how I see all this. This is another scam, in my opinion, that takes the Federal Reserve and the government out of the Ponzi scheme that they created, because they can now eliminate some of this debt that they have. And nobody wants to ever talk about this major debt. But if they eliminate cash completely, which is what I think their goal is, that takes away from what the real value is. You don't realize the value that you've lost on your dollars anyways. Most people don't understand that and realize the devastation that your currency has taken because of these imbeciles that run this country. All right, because they continue to borrow on money, knowing that they can try to inflate themselves out, and this is where the real problem comes in. So if you start to eliminate programs and you become more of a socialist economy, and I'm not saying a totally socialist economy, but more of a socialist economy where you eliminate real cash. Okay, and that's why Bitcoin is doing so well, because people are afraid. Some people get this, but you start to see the disappearing of more of your money, because now it's really, you're just swapping spit, this for that, this for that. There's no real values. It's like gambling with chips, okay? When you gamble with chips, it's easier to lose more because you don't think about it, because you don't pay for them right away. You got to take the money out of your pocket. You go, oh, geez, that's a lot of money. So this whole sliver scam that's been developing for now 104 years between the Federal Reserve and their ridiculous policies and now the healthcare system, the single payer type of setup. Again, you're trying to create more of a socialistic view here of everything. And that goes into the banking with, with fractional reserves and all of these things are ways to eliminate the actual problems that they're creating, all right? And really what they're doing is relieving you of your money through the back door. So that really becomes the much bigger problem here. And it's got to stop. This weak dollar that, this dollar is not weak because it's weak. It's weak because the Fed wants it weak, because they believe, and again, I don't get this. I'm not an economist, so I don't want to pretend like I know what I'm talking about here. But I never understood why I want to sell product at less and want a weaker dollar. I mean, wouldn't I be doing the same thing if I just cut the price and sold it at a stronger dollar? So again, so to me, this whole currency manipulation is really more of a way of taking pieces of everybody's money. Each time they kind of go up and down with it and they try to manipulate it, they're just kind of cutting the heart out of everybody. And I think that's more what I see here. And again, it doesn't make me right, but that's kind of how I see it. And to me, it's not the balance. On balance, I think we're seeing a much bigger problem. But it always starts with something very little and innocent, like we're going to do something good for you. We have the debt ceiling coming up. This all kind of ties together. Now, you know damn well that they're going to raise the debt ceiling. My hope is obviously that Donald Trump steps in the way and says, no, let the United States default. What do you think? People are going to call their notes? Were you kidding? We're the biggest economy in the world. But so this all ties together. So it's something to keep your eyes on, all right? But this is more of a plan to, again, eliminate your opportunities to benefit from the system we hit. That's what I see. That's the way I see it for today. This is Todd Horwitz, Bubba's Bottom Line. We'll see you back here next time. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you later.